self-anointed Hall of Gold Award goes to my special guest star this week, Miss Diana Ross.
For decades, fans speculated about the chemistry between Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye, two of Motown's brightest stars with a connection that always seemed to blur the line between music and something much more personal. Whispers of a late-night encounter, behind-the-scenes tension, and even a love that almost was floated around for years. But now, at 81, Diana Ross is finally breaking her silence, and what she revealed about that unforgettable night with Marvin Gaye is not what anyone expected. Before the Supremes, the girl who dared to dream in Detroit. Diana Ross was born on March 26, 1944 in Detroit, Michigan, the second of 6 children raised by Ernestine and Fred Ross Sr. Her mother had originally named her Diane, but a simple clerical error on the birth certificate changed everything. Officially, she became Diana. Still, to those closest to her, family and friends in Detroit, she would always be Diane. She grew up surrounded by her siblings, 2 sisters, Barbara and Rita, and 3 brothers, Arthur, Fred Jr., and Wilbert, who was affectionately known as Chico. The Ross household was grounded in faith, and Diana was raised in the Baptist tradition. Their home was at 635 Belmont Street, nestled in Detroit's North End, right near Highland Park. It wasn't just any neighborhood. Smokey Robinson lived just down the street. But childhood wasn't all smooth. At just 7 years old, Diana's life was disrupted when her mother fell seriously ill with tuberculosis. With Ernestine too weak to care for them, the children were sent to live with their grandparents, Reverend William Moten and his wife, in Bessemer, Alabama, where the Reverend pastored the local Baptist church. When Ernestine recovered, the children returned to Detroit, but the memory of that time never left Diana. By her 14th birthday in 1958, her family had moved into the Brewster Douglas housing projects on St. Antoine Street, a tough, working-class part of town that would shape her grit and drive. That same year, she enrolled at Cass Technical High School, a prestigious magnet school in downtown Detroit known for producing some of the city's top talent. Diana wasn't just another student. She was already dreaming big. She hoped to become a fashion designer and loaded her schedule with classes in clothing design, millinery, pattern making, and tailoring. But fashion wasn't her only pursuit. Determined to refine her image, she took modeling and cosmetology classes during evenings and weekends. According to Ross, it was Smokey Robinson who helped make that possible. He personally loaned her the money she needed to pay for the classes. Even then, Diana had a sparkle about her that others couldn't ignore. At school, she stayed active. She even joined the swim team, and outside the classroom, she hustled hard. In 1960, she broke a barrier when she was hired as the first African-American busgirl at the Hudson's department store in downtown Detroit. But she didn't stop there. For extra money, she styled her neighbor's hair, already showing the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that would one day define her superstardom. By January 1962, Diana Ross had graduated from Cass Tech not just with a diploma, but with the kind of focus that would soon turn a girl from Detroit into a household name. Diana Ross and the Supremes. At just 15, Diana Ross joined a local girl group called the Primemets, the sister group to the Primes, a male vocal group that included Paul Williams. It was Williams who first introduced Diana to music manager Milton Jenkins. Jenkins had already recruited Florence Ballard, and soon after, Mary Wilson and Betty McGlown, Williams' girlfriend, joined the lineup. The group quickly began making waves, and in 1960, after winning a talent competition in Windsor, Ontario, A&R executive Robert Bateman invited them to audition for Motown Records. Ross, already gaining attention for her live performances at sock hops and local events, turned to her old neighbor Smokey Robinson. She asked him to help get the Primemets in the door at Motown. Robinson agreed, but with a condition. He wanted to take their guitarist, Marv Tarplin, who Diana had discovered on tour with his group, The Miracles. Diana later reflected in her memoir, Secrets of a Sparrow, that it felt like a fair trade. Tarplin ended up playing with The Miracles and Robinson for the next 30 years. Eventually, the Primemets got their chance. Berry Gordy, founder of Motown, recalled in his autobiography that he was on his way to a meeting when he heard Diana singing, "There Goes My Baby." Her voice, he wrote, stopped me in my tracks. He asked them to sing it again, but once he learned how young they were, he told them to finish high school first. Still, the girls weren't giving up. They began showing up at Motown's Hitsville, USA headquarters every single day, offering to help however they could, clapping on tracks, singing background vocals, anything to be part of the action. That same year, they recorded 2 tracks for Lou Pine Records, with Ross singing lead on one of them. Diana also took on other roles: hairstylist, makeup artist, costume designer, and even seamstress for the group. By the end of 1960, Betty McGlown had been replaced by Barbara Martin, and the girls were finally allowed to record their own music at Hitsville. Many of their early songs were written by Smokey Robinson, including Your Heart Belongs to Me and A Breathtaking Guy. Gordy also contributed tracks like Buttered Popcorn, led by Ballard, and Let Me Go the Right Way. While these songs made noise regionally, they didn't break through nationally. Then came the name change. In January 1961, Gordy agreed to sign the group, but only if they chose a new name. Motown secretary Janie Bradford handed Florence Ballard a list of names, and Ballard picked the Supremes, simply because it was the only one that didn't end in "et." The others weren't thrilled. Diana reportedly told Ballard the name sounded like it belonged to a male group. Ironically, there actually was a male group called the Supremes at the time. But Gordy liked it and signed them under the new name on January 15, 1961. In 1962, Barbara Martin left, and the Supremes became a trio. It wasn't until late 1963 that they finally tasted real success. When the Love Light Starts Shining Through His Eyes hit number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100, and by mid-1964, things exploded. While on tour with Dick Clark's Cavalcade of Stars, they scored their first #1 hit with Where Did Our Love Go? From that moment until May 1967, Diana Ross, Mary Wilson, and Florence Ballard delivered 10 #1 hits, including massive crossover success in the UK, making the Supremes Motown's most successful act of the 1960s. But with fame came friction. Ross began dominating interviews, often speaking over questions directed at Wilson or Ballard. She pushed for a higher salary than her bandmates. And in 1965, she started calling herself Diana instead of Diane, catching even Wilson and Ballard off guard. Tensions deepened as Ballard struggled with weight, drinking, and reliability. In July 1967, Berry Gordy made the call. Ballard was out. He replaced her with Cindy Birdsong from Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. Soon after, Gordy renamed the group Diana Ross and the Supremes, a move that not only rebranded the act but also allowed for bigger paydays, with Ross billed as a solo star backed by a group. He'd already considered launching Ross's solo career in 1966 but held back, believing the Supremes still had more to give. She remained with the group until early 1970. Behind the scenes, the cracks were widening. Ross collapsed during a Boston concert in 1967 and had to be hospitalized for exhaustion. In her autobiography, she admitted she had begun struggling with anorexia due to the relentless pressure Gordy placed on her. During that time, Ross often recorded without Wilson or Birdsong. On tracks like Someday We'll Be Together, it was mostly session singers like Julia and Maxine Waters and Johnny Bristol supporting her vocals. By 1968, Ross was quietly preparing for her solo break. She began appearing as a solo performer on TV specials: TCB, GIT on Broadway, The Dinah Shore Show, and more. Motown's publicity machine started spinning a new narrative. Diana Ross had discovered the Jackson 5. Though Ross never claimed credit, Motown leaned heavily into the image. She introduced the group at public events, including the Hollywood Palace, helping launch their superstardom. By mid-1969, it was official. Ross was recording solo material, and in November, she confirmed her departure from the Supremes in Billboard. Her final single with the group, Someday We'll Be Together, became their 12th and last #1 hit and the final #1 Billboard Hot 100 single of the 1960s. On January 14, 1970, Diana Ross took the stage with the Supremes one last time at the Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas. From there, she soared. Ross released 26 studio albums as a solo artist with hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Touch Me in the Morning, Theme from Mahogany, Love Hangover, Upside Down, and the timeless duet Endless Love. Each one topped the Billboard Hot 100, making her the most successful female solo artist in the U.S. at the time. She continued dominating well into the 80s and 90s with global smashes like I'm Coming Out, Chain Reaction, and When You Tell Me That You Love Me. Her success wasn't limited to music. In 1972, Ross made her film debut as Billie Holiday in Lady Sings the Blues, earning a Golden Globe and becoming the first black woman nominated for an Academy Award for a debut film role. The soundtrack became her only solo album to top the Billboard 200. In 1976, Billboard named her the Female Entertainer of the Century. She has sold over 100 million records globally and remains the only woman to top the Billboard Hot 100 as a solo act, as part of a duet, in a trio, and in an ensemble, a feat that adds up to 18 number hits. In 2021, Billboard ranked her the 30th greatest Hot 100 artist of all time. She charted in the UK top 75 every year from 1964 to 1996, a record unmatched by any other female artist. But for all her fame and accolades, there's one story fans still whisper about, one lingering question that won't go away. What really happened that night between Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye? But before we get into what happened on that fateful night, we first have to take a look at Diana Ross's love story. Diana Ross's high-profile love life. Diana Ross didn't just sing her way into history. She lived it, loved it, and left a trail of headline-making romances behind her. Over the years, she's been linked to some of the biggest names in Hollywood music and beyond. Her relationships were as glamorous and layered as the star herself. Some brief, others deeply meaningful, but all unforgettable. Long before the glittering gowns and sold-out arenas, Diana had already captured the attention of Motown founder Berry Gordy. Their relationship wasn't just romantic, it was a music revolution. Gordy wasn't just her mentor, he was the father of her first child, Rhonda. The two had a connection that outlived their romance, with Gordy guiding her rise from Supreme's frontwoman to solo legend. Even after they moved on, they never truly left each other's orbit. Shortly after Rhonda's birth, Diana married music executive Robert Ellis Silberstein. The timing raised eyebrows. Gordy's child was born during her honeymoon, but Silberstein embraced the situation. He helped raise Rhonda as his own and supported Diana through some of her biggest career moments. Their marriage didn't last, but the respect between them did. In the years that followed, Diana's love life became a who's who of famous names. There was Gene Simmons, the rock god from Kiss. He wasn't the type anyone expected Diana to fall for, but they clicked. Simmons once introduced her to his mother, and for a while they seemed serious. But eventually the fire fizzled and he moved on with Shannon Tweed. Then there was Arne Naess Jr., the Norwegian businessman and mountaineer who swept her into a different world. Their romance was grounded in adventure and stability. They married in 1986 and had 2 sons together. Unlike her whirlwind flings, this was a real partnership. Even after they divorced in 2000, they stayed on good terms. His tragic death in 2004 hit her hard, and she's spoken fondly of him ever since. Of course, there were the short but sweet chapters too, like her fling with Warren Beatty in the early 70s. He was Hollywood royalty and Diana had just gone solo. Their chemistry sparked quickly but faded fast. Years later, she popped up in his film Reds, proof their connection didn't end on a bitter note. She was also briefly linked to Richard Gere. It wasn't a public thing, but word got around. Gere was at the peak of his heartthrob status, and Diana's name being tied to his only fueled the gossip columns. And then there was Jon Voight. They met in the 70s and seemed to have a spark, attending events and working on a few things together. Though it didn't last, there was no drama, just 2 stars crossing paths in a golden era of fame. But not every connection was romantic. Her bond with Michael Jackson ran deep, deeper than most people understood. From the early Motown days, Diana had been a guiding light in Michael's life. He adored her, called her his second mother, and often credited her for launching the Jackson 5. Fans speculated about something more, but the love between them was pure, protective, and platonic. Still, their closeness often drew attention, especially since Michael made it clear she held a special place in his heart. Even tennis legend Arthur Ashe shared a short-lived romance with Diana in the late 60s. They were seen together at events, and though they eventually drifted apart, the admiration remained. Their relationship might not have been headline-dominating, but it was genuine. two trailblazers supporting each other in a world that rarely made room for black excellence in their respective fields. Another surprising connection? Francesco Scavullo, the iconic fashion photographer. Their relationship blurred lines. He was openly gay, yet he and Diana briefly dated. It didn't last, but their creative bond did. He captured her beauty in unforgettable ways, and their relationship stood as a testament to Diana's unique ability to draw people in, no matter who they were. There were even whispers of something with Michael Bloomberg in the 2000s. The idea of Motown's queen and New York's mayor was unexpected, but the speculation came and went. Nothing was ever confirmed, but it showed that Diana's allure didn't fade with time. Through all the glamour, breakups, and private reunions, Diana Ross always carried herself with grace. Her love life wasn't just a string of names. It was a story of growth, heartbreak, and passion lived on her terms. Some men adored her, others couldn't keep up. But in the end, she remained the constant, strong, self-defined, and unforgettable. But for all the men that Diana has been with, there was one man who many have long speculated that Diana had a fling with. What really happened between Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross? Smokey Robinson has never been shy about his bond with Diana Ross, but in a rare moment of vulnerability, the legendary singer finally opened up about the history they shared. In an interview with The Guardian, Robinson revealed that he and Ross had a romantic affair that lasted about a year, even while he was still married to his first wife, Claudette Rogers. At the time, Smokey was just 19 years old. He and Claudette, a fellow member of the Miracles, had married in 1959 and stayed together until their divorce in 1986. But during those early years of Motown, when careers were being built and boundaries often blurred, things took a turn between him and Diana. According to Smokey, the romance happened naturally. "I was married at the time, we were working together, and it just happened," he said. "But it was beautiful. She's a beautiful lady, and I love her right till today. She's one of my closest people." He described Diana as young and full of ambition, still trying to find her way in the industry. And Smokey wasn't just a witness to her rise, he was instrumental in it. "I was trying to help her. I brought her to Motown, in fact," he recalled. "I wasn't going after her, and she wasn't going after me. It just happened." Their bond, built on music, turned into something deeper, something both of them felt, but never fully pursued beyond that one season in their lives. Eventually, it was Diana who pulled back. Smokey remembered the moment clearly. After they had been seeing each other for a while, Diana made the decision to end the relationship. She told him she couldn't keep going because she knew Claudette. And more importantly, she knew Smokey still loved his wife. And he admitted that she was right. "And I did. I loved my wife very much," he said. Even now, decades later, the tenderness in his voice when speaking about Diana remains. Their time together may have been brief and complicated, but it left an imprint. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a conquest. For Smokey, it was simply something real that happened at a turning point in both their lives. Something beautiful, even if it couldn't last. But Diana's love life hasn't been the only wild chapter in her life. In fact, the singer spent time behind bars for drunk driving. The real reason Diana Ross was arrested. Diana Ross found herself in the headlines for all the wrong reasons when, at age 58, she was arrested on suspicion of drinking and driving after her white Honda Accord was seen swerving dangerously across a road in Tucson, Arizona. It was the early hours of the morning, and a concerned motorist had called the police after spotting the vehicle driving erratically on the wrong side of the road. When officers pulled her over, Ross reportedly struggled through a field sobriety test. According to police, she couldn't walk in a straight line or touch the tip of her nose. When asked to stand on one leg, she lost her balance and fell. Things only got worse when she couldn't recite the alphabet or even give the correct time and date. A roadside breathalyzer test confirmed their suspicions. Ross's blood alcohol level registered at 0.20% more than double Arizona's legal limit of 0.08%. Police Sergeant Judy Altieri didn't mince words, calling it an extreme DUI. Despite the seriousness of the charges, Ross remained calm, polite, and cooperative throughout the arrest, though she denied having consumed any alcohol. Still, she was charged with 3 driving offenses. After her arrest, Ross was released into the custody of a friend and was scheduled to appear in court on January 13th. At the time, Ross's career was already legendary. She had risen to fame in the 1960s as the dazzling frontwoman of the Supremes, with hits like Stop, In the Name of Love, and Where Did Our Love Go?, songs that helped define the Motown era. In the 1970s, she launched a wildly successful solo career, topping charts with classics like Chain Reaction and Ain't No Mountain High Enough. But behind the glittering fame, Ross was quietly facing personal battles. Just months before the DUI arrest, in May of that same year, she had voluntarily checked into a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center in California, seeking treatment ahead of her summer tour. It was a move that many praised, seeing it as a courageous step toward healing. But the arrest made it clear that the struggle wasn't over. And it wasn't the first time Diana had clashed with the law. 3 years earlier, she was arrested at Heathrow Airport in London after a scuffle with a security guard. Though that incident ended with a caution and no formal charges, it hinted at the underlying turmoil Ross may have been dealing with behind closed doors. Eventually, in February 2004, Ross pleaded guilty to the DUI charge and was sentenced to 2 days in jail, along with 2 years of unsupervised probation. 2 additional charges were dropped. At first, she served her sentence in short bursts, 6 to 8 hours at a time, leading to public backlash when it was revealed that she'd had the freedom to come and go as she pleased. That leniency didn't last. Authorities later ordered her to return and serve a full 48 consecutive hours in jail. But in a surprising twist, that decision was overturned the following month. This caused debate about celebrity privilege and accountability. Still, through it all, Diana Ross remained standing, a mother of 5, an icon of music, and a woman navigating fame, pressure, and personal demons, all while trying to keep her crown in place. The headlines may have been messy, but her legacy remained as untouchable as ever. But well before the courts and controversy, there was Marvin Gaye, and what happened between them was something too hard to ignore. What really happened? Between Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye. When Tammy Terrell died on March 16, 1970, Marvin Gaye vowed he'd never record with another female duet partner again. Her death hurt so much, he said. Not because she and I were lovers, I wish we had been, but the relationship was platonic. She was a singer still developing, and her talent was denied her and so many others. I loved her very much. Tammy's passing devastated Marvin to the point he refused to perform for years. Meanwhile, Motown celebrated its 10th anniversary, but Marvin wanted no part of it. Still, by late 1971, early 1972, Berry Gordy had a plan. Diana Ross had just wrapped Lady Sings the Blues, and Berry was eager to get her back in the studio. Marvin, riding high off the success of What's Going On, was creatively stuck, frustrated over his shelved follow-up album, You're the Man. Berry saw an opportunity: pair his 2 biggest stars for a duet album, a kind of Motown magic redo of the Marvin and Tammy era. Initially, Marvin refused. He didn't want a duet to derail his solo artistic vision, and he was privately jealous of Diana's acting success and Berry's obsession with her. On top of that, he believed he was cursed with duet partners. Mary Wells and Kim Weston had both left Motown, and Tammy had died tragically young. But Marvin's wife, Anna, Berry's sister, persuaded him. For the right fee, and with the promise of first billing and half the producer royalties, promises Motown didn't honor, Marvin agreed. The first tracks were produced by Ashford and Simpson, including Just Say, and the unreleased I've Come to Love You So Much. But when the duo left Motown for Warner Brothers, Hal Davis was brought in to finish the project alongside Margaret Gordy, Mark Davis, and Berry himself. 18 tracks were recorded. 10 made the final cut. Right away, tensions flared. Diana was pregnant and uncomfortable with Marvin's marijuana use. "We did a couple of things together and then I wouldn't record with him in the studio," Diana said. "He used to smoke grass and I didn't want to be there." According to Hal Davis, Marvin told her, "I'm sorry, baby, but I gotta have my dope or I can't sing." Diana stormed out, tossing a bunch of grapes in Berry's direction before leaving. From then on, they recorded separately. Motown engineer Art Stewart recalled, "The chemistry was all wrong. Marvin would wander in sipping wine and smoking a joint. Diana was much more formal. He sang circles around her, and finally they recorded their parts apart." Marvin later admitted, I should have done everything to make Diana comfortable. But I went the other way. We were like two spoiled kids screaming for the same cookie. The result was an album of mock duets, stitched together in the studio. Some songs sparkled, especially the two stylistics covers, You Are Everything and Stop, Look, Listen to Your Heart. Others, like Pledging My Love, Love Twins, and I'm Falling in Love with You, felt phoned in. The opening single, You're a Special Part of Me, was written by Diana's former backing group, The Devastating Affair. Despite fan excitement, the single bombed. But then came My Mistake Was to Love You, a Pam Sawyer and Gloria Jones gem that cracked the US Top 20. In the UK, Motown wisely released You Are Everything, which soared into the top 5. Still, discerning listeners could tell Diana and Marvin weren't in the same room, let alone singing into the same mic. Additional singles followed. Don't Knock My Love and Stop, Look, Listen charted moderately, but none were smash hits. Still, fan curiosity drove album sales. By the time Diana and Marvin dropped in 1973, Marvin was back on top with Let's Get It On, his biggest-selling album yet. Diana, meanwhile, scored a solo triumph with Touch Me in the Morning. Both artists had already moved on. The album cover, Marvin and Diana back-to-back, unsmiling, said it all. Still, Motown's PR machine worked overtime, spinning tales of harmony and mutual admiration. Marvin played along, telling Crawdaddy, "This is a good duet album. I'm hoping it becomes a classic one day." But he was clear. This was a one-time thing. I never had any thoughts that singing with anybody could possibly injure my progress, he said. It's always enjoyable, but I don't follow my footsteps and my shadow. Promotion was handled entirely without the artist's involvement. The gap between recording and release raised questions about the album's relevance. Was it a meaningful collaboration or a calculated cash-in? Either way, Marvin wasn't worried. I knew Motown would do a big promotional thing, he said. I might even be talked into doing a duet number in one of Diana's shows. In 2001, Diana and Marvin was reissued with 4 additional tracks, including 3 outtakes like The Things I Will Not Miss and Alone. These songs offered historical insight but lacked the strength to justify their original omission. Surprisingly, Diana and Marvin did sing together again this time for a heartfelt reason. Alongside other Motown stars, they contributed to 1978's Pop's We Love You, a tribute album for Berry Gordy Sr. They recorded I'll Keep a Light in My Window together in the same studio finally, a real duet. Were you a fan of Diana Ross's song? If so, which song was your favorite? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.